He never sleeps. He never slumbers. He watches me.
Oh wow, my favorite memory of Grandpa when we were coming up. I just love the family gatherings, like the birthdays, Easter, after holidays. But we will always get into good discussions, whether it be about like Bible or just life. And I used to always get scared with my auntie and my uncles and my father, and they were going in about these discussions. And then, I guess my grandfather, he wanted to make his point, but everybody's like talking at the same time, which is hilarious because they also heard what everybody was saying at the same time. But then when Grandpa, when he wanted to, get his point across, he would always hit him with the wait now. And then, they would keep talking. I'm like, oh, wait, whatever is coming after this wait now is no good for you. You should back down. So, that was always, he always came with the knowledge. He was dropping the knowledge. He was awesome with that. And I love those stories. I love how much he put into it. I love everything about everything that he taught us. He was amazing that way. He was great.
He was the greatest storyteller because he had so many stories. He experienced so much. And you knew when that wait now was coming, that means you about to lose that argument.
It was over.
It might even no more point even saying anything else. But we loved that Ross. He had such an impact on everybody's life. My mom to this day, even though she's only met him a handful of times, when she called me on the phone, he's the first person she asked about. She asked about him before she asked about me sometimes. Because he had such a moving spirit. And such a personality that was so captivating. And I just think that's what people loved about him the most. That's what we loved about him, is that he had that ability to just always have a story of relevance for anybody. Whatever the situation was, he always had a good word to get in you and make you think about your situation differently. We love that we love that about him. We don't miss it.
One of the funniest, most of every funny conversation I can think of came from my dad talking to Uncle Cliff. Their conversations were like mostly an argument, but at the end it was always ended in love. The ones I'm thinking about the most was when my dad had a heart attack and he had recovered, and a couple months later I think Uncle Cliff did also. But at the hospital my dad went to, they gave him a little heart pillow, and Uncle Cliff came to see how he was doing. So Daddy said, Cliff, did they give you one of these? And Cliff said, nah, they didn't give me one of them. Then they started arguing because they said, well, you didn't have your heart attack right. And they went back and forth about who had the heart attack the right way, which I thought was just crazy.
My granddad, he was a true man, true real definition of a man. He always taught you stand up straight, look up straight, sit in the front of the class, no matter what, the subject or not, sit in front of the class. Look like you know what you're doing. And it's easy to teach you know what you're doing.
Mr. Ross was a man of integrity. He always had time to stop and listen, no matter how long you wanted to sit and talk with him. He was always there for us.
My grandfather, he was just such a pillar of strength for our family. He was such a pillar of strength. The men in our family, they don't smile because of Grandpa. When they take pictures, Grandma don't. Grandma don't smile either.
I have been in this family since I was 5, and him and my mom never treated me differently. In fact, when I came in, everyone called me Jay, but he always like, hey, Jake. And I always answered as if that was my name. It just came out of love, so I'm gonna miss Papa and his wisdom. Even at my wedding, he says to my husband, hey, you better treat Jake good. And my husband, he always honored that, and I just thank him for just being grandfather, dad, step in grandfather, and I just love him for that relationship.
He taught us so much. He told us that whatever you do, you gotta do it from the heart. And we were at the church one Sunday. He said, if you're gonna be a preacher, you gotta be a preacher from the heart. If you're gonna be a singer, you gotta be a singer from the heart. And so everything he told us is to do it with your heart, because that's how he lived his life. He lived it with his heart. And it showed us so much of us, and he taught us so much, and supported us in everything we did. He never told us that we couldn't do it. He didn't say if you do it, he said when you do it. And that was the most important thing that I got from my grandfather, just knowing that I can do whatever I set my mind to. Because he told me, don't say if, don't say I wonder if, just do it.
Hi, my name is Rachel Green. I am the youngest daughter of Kenneth Ross, and Clifton Ross was my grandfather. And Grandpa Ross, as I like to call him, he was always just a no-nonsense type of person. He always tell you exactly what was on his mind, but he always wanted to tell you how to stand up for yourself. And regardless of being short in stature, he's still very tall like a giant. And he taught us the same thing as far as stand up for what you believe in. Always put God first, but then you can't ever go wrong with that. And then also, he always talked about how to be that example of a married couple, what it should be, what to look for. Especially if somebody talk about having 69 years of experience, more than enough to teach us all many things over.
Grandpa Ross, see, I call him Grandpa too. I'm Kenny Ross, son-in-law, and I learned a lot from Grandpa Ross. He's always asked me every time I seen him, how's the post office doing? And I give him an update. He always talked about current events, things that he was always very sharp about.
Politics.
And politics as well. He had a very strong opinion, and I respected it quite a bit. He had told us when we had first gotten married that as long as people, women happy, everything should be okay. And it's funny, my name Tornez, a lot of people have a hard time pronouncing it. The funny thing in our wedding video was when him and Grandma Ross had made their video for us, he could remember my name. He had turned to Grandma and said, what's his name again? Right there on the video. So we thought that was funny. And that would go down as one of our great memories during that time. So I thank God for his memory and we'll always remember the wisdom that he shared with us. Thank you.
I met Mama and Papa in 91. I've been married to his son Kenneth since 94. That's 26 years I've known Papa. I've never known no more a sweeter man. I've never known him to say a bad word or about no one. I always loved his quirkiness, his smile, his temperamental ways. He's always been missed in my heart. He's replaced my father when my father passed. He's always been there. He's always a loving person, and I will miss him, and I can't express how much I love him as a father, a father-in-law, a person, a man of God. To hear him preach was one of the greatest things that I heard him or saw him do. And like I said again, he was a great man of God, and I love him, and I will miss him very much.
My name is Kenneth Ross. I'm the second son. And me and him started a long time ago. Me and him started working together. We had a car wash. We started working at a car wash together. And then we went to prison together. And we used to lunch together in prison. And like I said, my father, not too long ago, he said, I'd like when you come over here, because I want you to sit with me a while and talk to me. I said, okay. You know, for me, it was always, we always real good and close friends. Thank God for that. And that's all I got to say.
And we will miss him and think of him often.
Dad Ross is going to be truly missed. My heart is very heavy, and one thing I can say is that I loved him, and it would just grieve him if he knew I wasn't here saying something about him, because he always told me wherever he was, make sure I come, and I was always welcome wherever he was, and I'm gonna wait on him to invite me into that heavenly home where our Father's house has many mansions. So he'll have room for all of us and all the ones to come. And Angela is my daughter. And from the time I birthed her out, my parents were living, but I was like, nope, going to Mom and Dad Ross house. And her grandmother gave her her first bath, and her grandfather gave her one of her first bottles. So Dad Ross, he's going to be truly missed. He's been there all of my life since I was 14 years old, and I'm now 62 years old. And throughout that period of time, he never changed, he never wavered. He was always steadfast and stood his ground. And he always said nothing out of the way. And if anybody ever said anything wrong to me, let him know. He can take care of that too. And I would just like to say that I was blessed to be there and blessed to bring my children up in such a loving home. And my children don't know anything about broken homes and not having grandparents to talk to, because they were always there for you.
So I love my grandfather. He was there through so many important parts of my life. When I was a kid, you know, when we were kids, we used to leave Shalom, shoot down Mac, and go straight over to Iroquois. And we would just laugh, and then, you know, all the family would come over, and it was just, that was life for us. We went to church with the family every Sunday, and we'd go over Iroquois, and it was another party. That was life, and it was just so many great memories on Iroquois. You would have to be there to really get the full effect of how special that time was. One particular time I remember, he was there, I would be dating, and I would meet up at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And I was dating his brother. He's a church brother, and everybody knew him. And we went back to Grandma and Grandpa's house. And Grandpa was sitting at the table, you know, like he do, reading the newspaper. And we were sitting there, and we started singing. And, you know, we was like, spring up, oh well. Grandpa was reading the paper, and he was like, oh boy. And I knew what that oh boy meant. I was thinking the same thing, like, oh boy, this ain't gonna last, you know.
You know what, Candace? You know, I wasn't really expecting this to happen to Dad. You know, he always said he was gonna live to 104. And he really believed that he really was, and he made us believe he was gonna really live to 104. But our last day with Dad, we were at the place, and he was in his wheelchair, and he had a new man come in the room. And I was on the phone with Mom, and I say, Pop got a new roommate. What do you mean I got a new roommate? I don't even know who he is. Then the man laughed, and Pop cooled down and said hello. But one thing I can say about your granddad is that, you know, he was comical like us. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely think that we get our comedic side from him and Grandma, actually. But it's like they made the perfect pair. And one thing I always say about Granddaddy, you alright? You alright? How you doing? You alright? Because he always makes sure, but he would never, it's like each person he will always be able to tune right into. So like no matter how many grandkids, how many kids he had, no matter who he's talking to, he will always zone right into that person. And one thing I always remember with him, he always talked about time with me, like timing. If I ever was going through anything and I said, Granddaddy, you know, it's this, it's that, and he's like, you know, take your time. Take your time. And I just will never forget that, because timing is everything. We don't always understand all the time why certain things are happening, but if we just give it time, it'll heal all the things will be revealed, and I just appreciate that.
Now, you know, I'm listening to you talk about my dad, but you know what? I hope that I can fill the shoes that my dad with y'all, you know, with my kids, because he was a great example. I mean, he never hardly raised his voice or anything, you know, only in the hospital when he wanted water. But my dad was a great person. He was, you called my father, you could be 1,000 miles away. Ask any of my brothers. He probably traveled 1,000 miles to help them. My dad would go 1,000 miles for you. And he was a great example for us, and he would surely be missed by us. We love him to death. He loved his grandchildren. And what else you got to say about me?
We love you, Granddaddy, and you'll be missed, and thank you for all the time and the wisdom that you instilled in all of us, and we'll never forget it. And thank you. We carry that Ross name with pride.
Praise the Lord. I'm Kathy. I'm Ed's wife, and I've been in the family for 34 years. Jeez, that's a long time. Well, I can't say it hasn't been fun. I love Dad Ross. When I first came into the family, he told me, don't call me Mr. Ross. He said, I'm Dad. I'm Dad Ross. And truly, that's what he's been to me. He's been more like a father than a father-in-law. And I'm just so thankful for his wisdom. I can remember one story. My husband was trying to break into the music industry, and Dad Ross was giving him some advice. And he said, well, he said that at that time they lived on Mac and Iroquois. So he told Ed, he said, if you want to get into the music industry, you have to get in the way. He said, if you want to catch the Mac bus, it's not coming down to this house. You have to go to Mac. So you have to get in the way to get in the music industry. And I'm just so thankful. He did words of wisdom at our church, and there was always little nuggets like that. And I'm just so thankful to have been a part of his family. God bless you.
My grandfather used to always come to me and say, "What's the word?" And we had to say, "All is well." That's all he wanted us to know, was that all was well. He didn't want us to say, he said he used to get mad when he was like, he'd be like, "Oh, I'm all right. Oh, I'm doing." He didn't like that. He wanted you to say, "All is well," or, you're doing good. So he always wanted to make sure that we were doing just fine. So every time he came to us, he said, "What's the word?" We said, "All is well." So Grandpa, all is well. And it'll be well.
My boy Ed Ross Jr. That's what my grandfather would always say to me every single time I saw him. And always with a smile and just with a strong spirit. So everybody that know my grandfather know that. And I'm gonna miss my grandfather. I remember I was probably young. I was probably in like elementary school. He would tell me whenever I introduced myself to somebody, he'd say, when you walk up to somebody, "But what you tell them your name is?" And then, I say, "Edwin Ross." He said, No. He said, "You walk up to him, you say your name is Ross. Ed Ross." So I think I said that to somebody when I was young in like middle school. One of the kids asked me my name, and I looked at him, I said, "Ross. Ed Ross." And they kind of looked at me, but they knew my name after that. And he just always taught us to be strong whenever we speak to somebody, or whenever we say something, maybe in church or wherever. But I just thank God for the strong spirit that God placed on him, and how it just spoke to just so many people. And I just love him, and I was so thankful for him. And I'm gonna miss you, Grandpa.
Anybody that knew my Uncle Cliff knew that he could fix anything. I don't care what it was, even though he didn't like to be called a handyman, but he still could fix anything. And long when we lived under Earthquakes, we lived 2 doors down from Uncle Cliff. So whenever things broke in our house too, we still call Uncle Cliff to come fix it. And years later, after my parents were gone, and I kept the house for a while, and I was doing renovations to our bathroom after we did the bathroom. And I had the construction guys there. And Uncle Cliff, he was unique, very unique, and how he did things was his way. And even though it wasn't always orthodox, it lasted forever. But when the construction guys tore down the wall, every time they found things, and they would say, "Man, who did the wiring like this? This is really unique." And I said, "Yeah, well, that was my Uncle Cliff." And then they would go into something else, and they pull up the floor, and then they found something else, and they go, "Wow, this is really different." And I said, "Yeah." And then they both started turning around to each other saying, "Uncle Cliff." And they did that throughout the whole process.
Don't forget this.
What's that?
I gotta say this. They live like 3 houses away. And if he had to fix something, he drove.
He
had his tools in his car, and he went around the block and pulled up in front of their house. Because he was and he never would go out without his hat on. So that's why, I'm carrying the trademark. You notice I got my hat on. Sometimes I lay down and go to sleep with my hat on.
That's it.
He was a cool guy.
That's what I was thinking about.
And you know what else is so funny about my dad? My dad did 33 years in Chrysler. And one time I really needed a vacation. And I said, "Man, I gotta go in there and see if the man give me a vacation." My father said, "You don't go in there and ask for a vacation. You tell the man, I'm being off next week. I'm being off next week, you'll see me in a week." That's what my dad always said. He said, because if you say, "Can I be off?" You'll give the boss time to think. He said, "You tell the boss, I won't be in next week. I'm going on vacation." That was my dad.
Yeah, that's what
that was him.
Well, I just want to say a few things about my dad that I thought was really funny. The first story I have is one night I took his Lincoln. I went to go to church, and I went to Beatty's Cathedral on a musical. And he had told me to be home at a certain amount of time, or a certain time. And when I got out of the musical at Beatty's Cathedral, you all know how we did at Beatty's Cathedral. It was 4 o'clock in the morning, and my father had to be at work at 5. And when I came home from Baptist Cathedral, he was on the porch. And I didn't know what to say because he's standing out on the porch waiting on his Lincoln. And he didn't give his Lincoln to everybody to drive. But I thought that was one of the most funniest moments that we had, and how much he loved us, where he would let us do certain things and we got away with it. And it was one night, me and my mom, you know, my mom is always ready to eat. So we took his car while he was asleep, and we went up to the restaurant on Jefferson. We lived on the east side, on Iroquois. We get down to the restaurant, we ate, and on the way back, we ran out of gas. And so we couldn't get the car back, so I hopped in, and my mother pushed. And she pushed me all the way home. And my dad was so upset when he found out that we took his car, ran out of gas, and I had my mother to push. And we still laugh about that until this day. Dad, we love you, we miss you already, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right. My granddaddy Ross is, I remember one time I had a splinter in my finger and I was over here. That's when they stayed on E-Course. So, you know, this was Iroquois, I'm sorry. And this is a long, long time ago. And I had this splinter stuck in my finger from his wood banister they had. And I was like so scared for him to touch it. He's like, come over here, boy, I got you. You know, and I'm like, Granddaddy, I really want you to touch it. He's like, don't be so scared. You know, he squeezed my finger real, real hard. And I'm like, you sure you got it, Granddaddy? He said, I got it. He squeezed my finger real, real tight. He said, don't be scared, it ain't gonna hurt. And I'm like, she's like, oh boy, I hope we pull it, it ain't gonna hurt. But we put it, he's like, I told you, I got you. And I'm like, all right, Granddaddy. He had me. He never told no story to me. He never told me no lie. He always had me. Always. I love you, Granddaddy.
This week I was thinking about when we were in minister's class, and we went through 3 months of minister's training. Cliff sat next to me in class. When we got to the end, we had to randomly select a scripture that we were going to preach about for our final night. And he had a little problem because the scripture was so short. So he said, they gave me these 2 little lines, and everybody else has said everything that I was supposed to say. But I got a charge to keep, and I got a God to glorify. And he went on to preach about whatever he wanted to preach about anyway. Even though they gave him 2 lines, he always did what he wanted to do.
Hello, I'm Ed. I'm second from the youngest son. Today I'm Ed. Now tomorrow will be Pastor Ross, but today I'm Ed. I want to tell one funny story from my dad. Me and my dad, you know, we've been together a long time, and we've done a lot of things. And one of the funniest things I can remember that my dad and I done was years ago. There was a movie that came on called the 4:30 movie. And I was sitting there by the TV, my dad was sitting there, and he was like, my dad, you might know my dad, he talked loud. He was like, Ed! And I looked just like, yeah. I mean, I was sitting right there, he was like, Ed! He's like, yeah. What time the 4:30 movie come on? So I did one of them, I was like, 4:30. Oh yeah.
He never sleeps.
Praise the Lord. I'm so thankful to be in the land of the living first of all. I thank the Lord for meeting my wonderful husband. And I mean to tell you, he was a good husband up until the time the Lord called him in. We lived together 70 years this past year. And we never broke out no windows, called no fire department. We didn't have any life like that. We really lived a life, I believe, that was pleasing to God. Raised our children. I started going to the Holiness Church. Well, maybe about 1958. I got married in 1946. 1958, some saints came by my house. And they told me about being born again. And I said, oh, I've already done that. But they said born again, it does not mean joining the church. It means really born again of the Spirit. And I thought to myself, I want what they have. And I really, in my heart, I wanted so bad, the Lord saved me. Give me a mind to live holy and sanctified. And from that day to this, my husband, we used to go to the People's Baptist Church. And then we went to Mount Pleasant for a while. But you know, after I got in that holiness church, my husband never went nowhere but home. He might have followed me afar like Peter did Jesus, but I look, he was coming. And I didn't say come, he just came. And I thank the Lord for that because he was in the church with me and would have been if he hadn't had this stroke. But because of the stroke, he took him out of the regular service. But I believe the service was in him. And I'm so thankful today. I can say we had a beautiful life. One, I could tell any lady, any man, if you married, stay that way. Because when you throw your good piece of material away, somebody way to get them out the garbage. I'm going to tell you that. Because it's true. You throw them in the garbage can, I guarantee somebody take them out. So we thank the Lord, keep your good husband and work on yourself. And then when you do that, you'll find that your life was good. I forgot to mention to you all how that my husband's father was a preacher. And when he grew up and he began to follow me around in the whole church, he would be coming, when I'm there, I'll look and see him coming in the church. He might have sat in the back seat. But you know, the Lord gave him a mind to be a sanctified preacher. And they all loved him. The group that I was with, they took a real liking to it. And he made so many friends with the preachers in my Congregational Church of God in Christ. And he stayed in that ministry. And when you all see his casket on Saturday, you're going to find out. Elder Clifton Ross is on that casket. That's what he was, and that's what we put on there. So I'm thankful for all of you, my sons. They came into the ministry themselves. Pastor Raw, head of Raw, opened up a church, and my husband would have been there if he hadn't had the stroke. That's exactly what he came to, his church. But I'm there.
Annual 2714 production family reunion. We would like to say that we're glad that all of you all who have made it have come this far. Hopefully you'll go back and tell some of your other family members that are not here that didn't make it, how much fun you had today, and then they will participate in next year's reunion. But at this time, we would like to present the 4 remaining children that are left from Irene Ford, Ross Stevenson Mitchell, with plaque of appreciation dedicated to. That's okay. We got one for him. We didn't leave him out. Yes, you tried. May the oldest. There you go, baby. And what the plaque says, 2714 Productions Family Reunion, July 2002. And at the bottom it has a listing of all the children that graduated. All right. All right, come on. 14 is a momentous day today.
It sure is. What you gotta say, Bob?
All is well.
All is well? All right, Mom. Mom, what you got to say today for 27? All right. All right.
So far, right now, and all my family right here, I'm the oldest one here.
That's what he meant. That's what he meant. Sarah, what would you like to say? What would you like to say, Sarah?
Oh, excuse me.
Eyebrows.
Yeah. Now look good, now, Grandma.
She ain't got no eyebrows.
But Dad, the head is there.
Can we get the eyebrows? No, it looks like she ain't got no eyebrows. Got cancer eyebrows.
Where's the eyebrow?
It's in her purse.
No, that's not.
Daddy did that.
Did she wear lipstick on? Let me tell some more though.
Daddy did that.
Don't do that.
I got it.
What does it look now?
Not so rough.
No, I know what I'm doing. Now you look natural. Oh, yep, that's good.
Hey, Juan,
That's good.
you can see that turf.
My grandfather used to always tell the story, you know, who wear the pants? He laid the clothes out on the bed and
You
said
were
that
talking
to my
about the
grandma.
pants twice already.
Who wear the pants? Who wear the pants? And I've never seen my grandmother in pants, so I had to say grandpa wore the pants.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I'll take that. My grandpa used to always say, grandma tell the story about grandpa laying clothes out on pants out on the bed and told her to put on the pants and she said, I don't wear no pants. So you say, I wear the pants, but you don't forget it. So I never see grandma in pants, so I guess that goes for, you know.
Tell him right. Tell that story right at all. He made the, wait a minute, you ain't on yet. He made the put them on. He said, I can't fit them pants. He said, don't you forget it. Yeah, tell him story. You tell stories like mom.
Lay the clothes out on the bed and tell my grandmother, you know, so she say, put the pants on. And she say, I can't wear the pants. She say,
Let the pants go.
I can't just say,
Let the pants go.
And that's it.
He never sleeps. He never slumbers. He watches me all night and day and night. He never sleeps. He never slumbers. The reason I know. He told me so. I don't have to worry. My soul's in his care. I don't have to worry. He'll always be there. I know that he's watching wherever I go. I know that he's watching. He told me so. He never sleeps. He never slumbers. He watches me